So anyway, Peter, it is great to see you again. As we look forward to another Ardee Baroque Festival with the Irish Baroque Orchestra. This is a relationship that goes back many years now. How do you see its role in the work of the orchestra? And do you have any particular memories yourself?
There's so many memories of RD. It's such an unusual place and an unexpected place for people to make music. And I think that's part of the charm of it too. And also, that the musicians and the orchestra mix with the locality in a very unique way. It's like two different species of animal kind of regarding each other and finding out what the other one's about. And we've had such a great time over the years. And yeah, the locals have been so friendly, and we've had so many good social occasions as well as musical ones there in my memory. I think I've been there almost since the beginning, playing bassoon and being involved here and there with IBO along the way. But yeah, it's an unusual setup, but a really successful one, and it just goes to show, then that not all the music making and concerts have to happen in the big cities. This is a huge example of the success of that. But yeah, there were so many great moments. I think at the beginning, maybe we had Libby Wallfish come along, and then there was the Monica Huggett era, which was some wonderful concerts. We were in the castle, I think, at that point, and I think then afterwards, the music making spread throughout the town, and maybe we ended up in the church then in later years. But yeah, it was a big voyage of discovery, seeing which spaces work best.
Yeah, it is always good to see quality performances of Baroque music happening at events in regional centres like this. We're getting away from the big cities, and we're seeing this with the festivals at Ardee, but also Sligo and East Cork. And do you see this developing at all? I mean, might we see more events at different regional localities in future?
It's certainly a lot of potential to do that, and I think the way the world is going, especially with the current climate, our mind is more focused on what we can do locally, and the best quality we can bring, to smaller locations. I guess that's the kind of general drive nowadays. And kind of cutting down, carbon emissions. We don't need to charge around the world. It's better to maybe build a relationship with smaller communities like that. Yeah, could well be the way forward. And there's lots of examples of that being a success. Apart from in RD, for instance, what Francis Humphreys is doing down in West Cork, what he's built up there is like internationally renowned, and it's such a high level, perhaps even the best level of chamber music in Ireland that he's established just by himself. And similarly in RD, again, an unusual or an expected location, but we've had so many great concerts there over the years with yeah, some really great artists.
With this year's appearance at Ardee Baroque, as well as last weekend's recital at the National Concert Hall, we're seeing the Irish Baroque Orchestra enter into a new collaboration with pianist Fineen Collins, and also the programming of music by Beethoven. Will we be seeing the IBO expand more into classical repertoire, do you think?
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so. Poor old Beethoven has chosen a bad year for his celebrations. So much has been cancelled. So many big symphony cycles and concertos, have had to be cancelled. And this is one of the, in a purely pragmatic way, this is like the smallest version of Beethoven that we can still celebrate in a meaningful way. But of course, it's all there with the trios. Those. Many respects his bread and butter, and you kind of see how he developed from the piano trio upwards and outwards. But yeah, it's so important. It's such a natural trajectory for the orchestra. Sometimes I guess the word baroque is limiting in a certain respect, because what we're really interested in is bringing music from the past back to life, maybe in a different way. And yeah, there's that travel. So we're always looking to go beyond the Baroque era and also backwards to see how far back we can go too. But coming from an orchestra that mostly does Baroque repertoire, it makes us kind of see the classical with a different perspective, and we approach it in a different way. So people have various degrees of experience with that. Of course, Fineen is wonderful a pianist, concert pianist who can do all kinds of repertoire. So for him, it's dipping his toe in the waters, like going backwards, whereas for some of the players are reaching as far forward as they can to come to Beethoven. So it's an interesting, some interesting conversations going on there about how to make music together. And I think that always opens windows into different interpretations and perspectives.
Of course, nothing worthwhile is easy to do, but I've always had the impression that playing classical music on period instruments does present particular challenges. And could you comment on that at all?
Yes, that's very, very interesting. Just even coming from the perspective of a wind player, of having played the bassoon for so long, you realize that, you know, the instruments, and I think it's the same with keyboard instruments and string instruments too, that there was a kind of perfection in the Baroque era for many instruments, like the Baroque oboe and the violin. Violin hasn't changed massively in lots of respects since those times, but it was kind of all the instruments feel like settled, and you can really get used to them in a similar way to how modern instruments feel to modern players. But the classical and romantic eras, you feel that the instruments are beginning to be squeezed and stretched a little bit. So they're pushing them in a direction. So they're transitional, they're on their way somewhere. And it very often feels like you have a kind of a teenage instrument under your neck or under your fingers that's not always happy to do everything and can complain more easily if the weather changes or you don't have everything exactly spot on. But that little added edge, that little frisson of tension also adds something to the music too. And when you have somebody like Beethoven who's really insisting on things again and again, you have little sforzandos and kind of the music is pushing. It just needs that little edge, so something extra to push against. But yes, it definitely is a challenge, and the convention nowadays is as well, you know, with the Baroque music we often tune semitone lower than 440, the modern pitch. It's a thorny topic, but for classical, the convention, at least nowadays, we go somewhere in between, so 430, it's a quarter tone lower. So even that brings its own challenges of having to get used to and drawing your ear into that different pitch, which isn't easy for everybody, especially if you have perfect pitch. It's easy to go semitones, but in between is a little bit more challenging. But yeah, it's all for the good and just ways to shake up our perceptions and to think of it coming from a new direction.
So you're going to be giving two concerts at Ardee Baroque, one all Beethoven and the other all Bach. What can audiences expect?
Yes, well, I suppose it's nice to put the two in contrast with each other. Of course, you've got two heavy hitters there with Beethoven, Bach, and yeah, also pared down to their essentials. So it's a very sign of the times as well, but just yeah, minimalist and pared back. So I think it'll be very interesting for audiences to compare the two different worlds with each other. I'm not sure. It's maybe a good question of how aware Beethoven was of Bach's music. I know he was a big fan of Handel, but yeah, you maybe compare and contrast what influence they might have had on each other, and yeah, what different directions they take us. I guess as a kind of a blanket thought about it, that Beethoven seems to be always pushing forward, and Bach very often just inhabits this enormous space of eternity where he is. This kind of yeah, he seems earthed in that particular kind of way. But I guess it's for the audiences to decide what it means to them. But definitely a good weekend of music making there. You've got some really fabulous music.
Yes, absolutely. And just on a more general note, it's great to have you back, literally in the country, Peter. When and where will we be seeing you perform again? Can you say?
Yes, well, at the moment I'm quarantining ahead of our Abendmusik concert in Galway, which will be happening this coming weekend. We'll be playing music Dixit Dominus by Handel. And also, because it's St. Cecilia's Day, we'll be doing Welcome All the Pleasures by Purcell, with a wonderful new commission by Rona Clark, which is just for the singers. So really looking forward to that. It's just fun to make the effort and get together to celebrate Saint Cecilia. I always find the patroness of music. So you're not playing for a king or an audience in particular. You're playing for each other and for the talents that have been bestowed on you by this heavenly entity. So it's kind of, it brings a different perspective on it. And then, yes, the week afterwards, it's a complete change for me, where we're planning for a performance with the Irish National Opera of Seraglio and Furungasim Sarai by Mozart, a concert version at the concert hall. And the next day will be the annual performance of Messiah, which this year will be live streamed from the concert hall with a wonderful set of soloists. But it's good to keep that tradition going, even in this strange times. And then the following week, it was a deferred performance with Paula Murray. He was one of a series of mezzo masterpieces, I think is what it's called. And we're going to be playing some beautiful Mozart arias from Kilkenny Castle. And I think that'll be my lot in Ireland, at least before Christmas. But it's a busy few weeks.
Well, something for everyone, I think, and certainly lots for us to look forward to.